Hi, my name is Cindy Rang with the Fabric Patch in Ephrata, Washington, and today we're going to work on block number 6 of our Jaye's Bouquet block of the month. Okay, we've been working through Corey's gorgeous quilt, and if you're not familiar, this is also her fabric line. If you go to our website, fabricpatch.net, we still have some of her fabric left. I don't think we have any more of these particular kits left. We do have this pattern, her 2 books, a couple of other patterns by her, and then, of course, some of this fabric left. So we've been slowly working through this. If you want to do this with us, you would need to have the pattern. It's extremely well written, and every month we have an embroidered block and a pieced block. Block number 2, block number 3, 4. Last month, this block was so simple, we just sort of added it to this one. We're going to do the same thing this month, and I'll show you as we work through it. So this is our embroidered block. This is our piece block this month, and you can tell it's really just a half log cabin block. All you'll need to know is the measurements that you start with, and it's super easy to piece. I love the fact that they are rectangular blocks instead of square blocks. I think it's really pretty. The other thing that's kind of fun is that her embroidery is fairly simple. She's got mostly just back stitch, stem stitch, running stitch. She has a bunch of different things, and each month we're showing you something new, either something that she has featured that we haven't yet shown, or something additional just to kind of increase your embroidery repertoire. So this month what we're going to show you is the Palestrina knot, and I'm also going to show you how to do a Bullan loop. So last month I showed you how to do a Bullan knot. We're just going to change it up just a tiny little bit for something to do with this one. So just to kind of review her pattern, the pattern is really nice. She does this really large color sheet just to show you up close the colors that she uses and the stitches that she's using, and the pieced block. And then she has another full-size page. This is the size that you're going to trace to be able to do the embroidery. She does have where all of her stitches are, which ones she uses. She has all of her piecing for her pieced block, and she even talks to you about the threads that she uses. We talked about threads, I think, in either the first or the second class. And really, if you have lots of leftovers, most of us have, you know, those fun bins full of all of that leftover embroidery floss. It's kind of nice to be able to use that up, use up the colors that you'd like, and experiment a little bit with 2 strands, 3 strands, maybe some unique wool thread, maybe some variegated floss. It's kind of fun to play with those a little bit. So, anyway, so what we're going to do, I'm not going to talk about this one too much. I feel like this is pretty self-explanatory. You just have to cut it the way that she tells you. Piece this together. It ends up super quick, super cute. But we are going to talk about this, and we're going to go a little bit more close up to talk about this block. Okay, so again, this is her drawing that we will trace onto our fabric. And there's a couple different ways to do this. What I tend to do is I do tend to use my Micron 0.005 when I'm tracing something. That way the mark is not going to disappear. This is such a fine point marker that what will happen is even if you're using a single strand from your DMC 6 strand, you're still going to cover the mark that was left. So because it's just so thin and tiny. The only difference is that, of course, if you change your mind and you want to go outside the lines a little bit or add something a little bit different, this is, of course, a permanent mark. Another option that a lot of people like is to use an iron away or wash away marker. I tend to not use a wash away. I don't want to deal with that afterwards. The iron away is kind of nice, and I like that, but the problem is that if you are traveling, if you're in a car, and the car's a little bit hot, your mark will go away until you can put that in the freezer and get that mark back. So this tends to be my preferred method. The other thing I just want to mention, if for some reason you hate the idea of tracing it, there is a product called Wash Away Stitch Stabilizer. This is an 8.5 by 11 inch sheet. There's 10 in a package, and what you do is it does have a backing that's similar to freezer paper, and you can run this through your inkjet printer and it will print the image right onto this for you, and then you can kind of trace it out. You just stick it down and then you're able to stitch through it. A lot of people really like this. Then when you're done, just add a tiny little bit of moisture and the whole thing will disappear without any kind of a residue. It is a really nice option if you don't like to trace. I'm going to say that for me personally, I can kind of feel that extra stabilizer when I stitch through it. So I tend to only use this if I'm doing something that's fairly fast or has large stitches, but it is kind of a nice option. The other thing I just want to mention, we mentioned this in the very beginning, but since we're talking about our piece, you always want to make sure that you have something behind the piece that you're stitching, just to make sure that you hide those trailing stitches that you have. I really like diaper flannel. You can also use a piece of batting if you'd like that. You can also even just use a piece of muslin if you'd like, but it is kind of nice to have that little bit of stabilizer and something that will hide those trailing stitches. All right, with that being said, let's go ahead and work on a couple of stitches. Okay, this is just our fun little practice piece that we've been working on for the whole class, and just a little reminder that you do want to make sure that you hoop hand embroidery, because it's the only way really to be able to provide appropriate tension. We have already in previous classes, we've covered the chain stitch, the stem stitch, back stitch, fly stitch, feather stitch, uneven back stitch, feather stitch, drizzle stitch, and then again last time we did our bullion knot and showed you the one thing that would happen if you tied it off too early. So we're going to do a bullion loop in a little bit, but first I want to go ahead and show you this Palestrina knot. And a Palestrina knot almost looks like it's just a back stitch with a French knot on it, and that's kind of what it is, but oh, let me draw a line first. But the way that you do it is you're going to come up on the line and you decide how long you want your stitch to be, however long you want, and you're going to go down just above the line. And you're going to come up underneath it, just below the line. When you do that, you're going to come around and you're going to come through this top stitch, but this is the point of our needle. I always like to turn it around just so I don't grab something that I don't want to, and I'm going to go through it with my eye first. Then I'm going to come back, and if you look at this, you can see that there is like a Y, right, created from the bottom stitch and the top stitch. We're going to come back and we're going to go through that top one, and again I've turned it around so I don't snag something I don't want to. And as I come through that, I'm actually going to complete the knot and pull this over so that I have this knot at the end of my stitch, and that lines me up for my next stitch. And so now I'm going to just go ahead and do another one. I'm going to come in right up above the line. Come back out underneath it, turn it around and come down. Oops. And then with my two Y's, I'm going to come up, come through the top one, turning that into a knot, and just pull that over and tighten it. And then I'll just keep going along the line, and that is a Palestrina knot. Okay, let's just review this for a second. Where she has used this Palestrina stitch is just this inner frame right here. And what I demonstrated was 6 strands of DMC, but what she has used is a size 8 of the eleganza, and that looks more like that. So it's just kind of fun just to experiment. Use whatever color you'd like and whatever weight you'd like. Obviously, the stitch looks significantly different with a thinner thread. So kind of fun just to sort of make it your own in terms of color and size of stitch. So now I just want to show you one that she does not have in this flower, but just in terms of increasing our embroidery repertoire, I want to show you a Bullan Loop. So we did a bullion knot last time. A loop is extremely similar. I think I'm going to do it right here. And so all it is you're going to come up, and just like the bullion knot that we did last time I would have come all the way out and come up, and I would have wrapped on enough that would kind of take up the size stitch that let me get that out of the way, the size stitch that I made. This time, whatever size stitch I've made, I'm sorry that drizzle stitch is totally in the way, ignore her. I'm going to do at least 2 times the amount, if that makes sense. So see the little stitch that I've made here, and see how much I've wrapped on? This distance is about 2 times the amount of the stitch that I've made, at least 2 times. All right, once I've made my wraps and I've stopped, and again, I'm using a Milner needle, which is a needle that has an equal shaft, so you can see that the shaft and the eye are all basically, the same width. There isn't a larger eye at the end like you see with an embroidery needle. Okay, oops, I've loosened that a little bit. What I need to do is hold on to these stitches in between my thumb and forefinger, and then just like the bullion knot, I'm going to just pull this thread through. And once I've pulled it through, I really can manipulate that just a little bit. I can kind of tighten them up a little bit. I can smooth them out a little bit, whatever I'd like to do. And once I have them kind of the way that I'd like, then and only then I'll take the stitch. If I take the stitch too soon, that's what caused this little thing over here when I demonstrated this last time, that I'll end up with a bullion knot unless I take the stitch too soon. So once I'm ready to go, then I'll come over, take this little stitch, and the difference between a bullion loop and a bullion knot is exactly what you think. You can see that there is this loop that's created, and it just kind of stands up and creates kind of a little 3D little stitch versus something that's laying a little bit flat. So I'm going to go ahead and do another one. I'm just going to come up, and I'm using this variegated thread, so it has kind of a funny look to it. I'm just going to take a tiny little stitch, come back up about where I started, and just wrap it. And if you're doing a bunch of these in succession, for a flower, I probably would count the number of wraps that I'm putting on there to make sure that all of my petals are the same. So I'm going to stop maybe about there. So again, you can see the size of my stitch and how many wraps I have on it. I'm just going to hold on to those wraps as I pull my needle through there. And then once I've pulled them through, I have an opportunity to kind of smooth them out a little bit, rustle them all up there, get them all nice and even. And once I'm happy with what they look like, then I'll come in and take my stitch, take my stitch to anchor that bullion loop. And there it is. There's our little bullion loops. They're just kind of fun little 3D little stitches, and it's kind of fun standing right next to the drizzle stitch. I think we did that in the 3rd class maybe. Anyway, so we can just keep going all the way around, and it just is a nice little 3D stitch. All right, so that is block number 6, and again, she has just this adorable little block with just 5 fairly simple stitches. We covered the Palestrina knot, but you can certainly put anything you'd like in there if you want to change it up just a little bit. We've added 1 more additional stitch to your repertoire, and as you continue to practice, if you find that you need anything, if you need some Milner needles, some chenille needles, embroidery needles, or any of the eleganza thread, be sure and visit your local quilt shop, or you can visit us at fabricpatch.net. And I'll see you next time for block number 7. Thank you for watching our video. We invite you to leave a comment, hit the like button, or better yet, subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode. You can also visit our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or Pinterest pages, or find all of those things and our online store at fabricpatch.net.